I'm Sean Fennessey.
I'm Amanda Dobbins.
And this is The Big Picture, a conversation show about the best movies of the year so far. We've invited some guests onto the pod today, some guests to share their opinions, to share their takes, to share their favorite movies of 2024. Has it been a good year for movies, 2024?
We've made the best of it.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a nice time.
Have you?
Mostly.
Okay. I would say it hasn't.
No.
It hasn't.
And it's also, the anticipation of what's to come is also interesting.
It's complicated.
Yeah.
There has been some really good stuff. I think this is a great opportunity to talk about some smaller movies.
Which we're going to do.
There's obviously a few heavy hitters that you and I loved, that some of our guests loved. Now that we've had all these conversations, I look back at the movies I didn't mention, and then I'm like, oh, I forgot to mention this, and I forgot to mention this. Maybe it's better than I think. But we're not at 2019 or 2007 or 1939 levels of greatness right now.
Or even last year.
We're not.
Yeah.
We're not. And obviously, the strikes contributed to that, and a number of other things, and the movie business and streaming and all that other bullshit that we talk about all the time. What if the second half is amazing?
Listen, you better light a candle and hope that that's true. All right?
A Beetlejuice. We've got that. We've got Conclave. We got a movie full of priests and popes.
I am looking forward to that.
That sounds good. We got
Venom.
Venom, The Last Dance. Are you kidding me?
Do your Venom.
Venom! We are Venom! I love Venom.
Yeah.
Kraven the Hunter.
Sure, yeah.
We got...
I wonder if I'll see that. Nosferatu, you're excited?
Wow.
Yeah.
We did the auction already, but I already got Nosferatu. I was so excited to see that I had
did?
already gotten Nosferatu. Yeah, I got it for $1 6 months ago, so that's how pumped I've been for that. What else? Anything else? Like, what are you like in your heart of hearts? You're like, this is the movie that I care about the most that's coming out in the second half of the year.
I honestly can't think of anything right now.
Great sign. All right, let's go to our first guest. I'm surrounded by just a wall of femininity right now. I don't know if I've ever been on set with three female co-hosts at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we
that's
can
an
tell.
indictment of the ringer.
We can tell based on the way you chose to introduce us.
Maybe all these women in one room
I haven't
together.
been invited to these shows.
This is payback for Dudes Rock, the
I've
podcast.
never been invited to Jam Session. I've never been
That's
invited to every
not
single
true.
album.
Okay.
I've never been invited to the house. I have
You've
been
been on
invited to
House of R
That's true.
multiple
I
times.
drafted. That's true.
Multiple times.
But only for drafts.
And then usually there was
Yeah.
another dude in the room to make
That's
him feel more
true.
comfortable.
Yeah, that's
I suppose.
true.
Yeah.
I have to say, I think the question based on how you chose to introduce this segment is not whether you've ever podcasted with three women, but whether you've ever been around three women, period, in any circumstance.
There's first for everything, so this is a momentous day for a number of reasons.
Congratulations.
Something Mallory and I decided is that we're bringing back the Nuzzler. It didn't really catch on
know.
after the
What
draft the way we
happened to the
wanted it
It
to.
was powerful
so-
in the moment, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
and
Imagine
wasn't
how it was
giggles?
for my wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nuzzler and giggles.
Yeah.
Nuzzler was wonderful.
Well, it's not something I'm gonna, propagate myself.
Yeah, it's on us.
It's on us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Imagine if I was like, I'm the Nuzzler before every episode.
Yeah.
Would
Really
that be good?
upset. Yeah.
Wags, can you clip that, please, and send it to Steve for the House of our soundboard? Thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I got
Appreciate
you.
it.
I got you.
We'll have the t-shirts soon.
Mallory, Rubin, and Joanna Robinson are here. House of R.
Hey.
Straight from a House of R recording.
Yes.
right.
You guys just clipped 8 hours on The Acolyte episode 5. You've come straight from the studio to another studio.
Do you remember when you said we weren't invited back on the podcast ever again?
Did I say that?
Yeah,
What was
after the
it?
draft.
What did you
It
do?
was because of, I believe, if memory serves, it was in reference to the Ringerverse podium sweep of the 99.
And I can't
draft.
recall that. Did that happen?
Did you repress the memory?
I've had the episode deleted. It's been scrubbed from the archives, and you'll never be able to hear that ever again. But you're here to talk about your favorite movie of the year so far. You were prompted ahead of time by our producer, Bobby Wagner. Mallory jumped on Dune Part 2.
Yeah. What I said was, can I pick Dune Part 2? Has anyone picked Dune Part 2? And no one had yet. And this is, after 8 years of The Ringer, my first real lesson in why it's important to respond to slacks quickly. I felt great.
I was going to say, no one had because you picked first. Congratulations
Thank you.
on your number one draft pick in
Thank
this
you.
non-draft.
Was it a simultaneous slack?
He did.
Or-
I'm not going to tell. I won't reveal publicly what Bobby said to me. He responded with candor about who he thought would carry a lifelong vendetta against me if I did, in fact, stick with my pick. And I said, I will not live in fear. I am going with Dune Part 2.
Do you want to name names? Is that person
He
in the
does
room
not
with us
know.
right now?
Actually, no.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
Not me.
I would say Bobby doesn't seem sure that Van and I will ever speak again.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh, wow.
I don't know how Bobby chooses. Maybe it's like a random number generator who he asks first, but I was at least 4th, I think, on the ask list this time, which is fine, Bobby. That's fine.
There was no
Dune,
vendettas. I was just asking people based on who Sean put the list in front of me, who was on that list, and in what
He
order.
was watching
Also,
Gunnar Henderson highlights, and he hit me up.
I can assure you.
I gotta say, like, Mallory and I have been chatting baseball since 2018, so sometimes I give her a little head start.
There we go.
Wow, you got
Baseball
preferential
is
treatment.
Back.
Okay, so because of that, we got word that you're trying to piggyback on your co-host pick.
We believe in partnership and collaboration.
Mallory was the one who came up with this idea. She said, what if we did it
Well,
together?
actually, on this podcast, we believe in round numbers. So you guys teaming up means we're only at 9 best movies of the year.
But what if you guys have more than one best movie of the year?
Joanna, you have seen a lot of movies this year. You think we're going to be able to come up with 2 favorites?
I'm not.
Yeah.
Here's what's true. Dune and Challengers went off the board really early, and I think every single person since was like, "Can I have
seen
Dune?
both of those.
Can I have Challenge? Can I have the Zendaya special? No Zendaya on the left. Okay, I do have a backup if needs must.
Well, let's let Mal cook on Dune Part 2 a little bit. Even though you have podcasted roughly 14 hours about Dune Part 2 already,
20.
nevertheless,
not as many as we were supposed to.
Oh, is this the Paula Atreides Hall of Fame episode at long last?
One day, the Bad Babies will get their
Yeah.
Hall of Fame. One day.
What did you like about Dune Part 2?
I liked everything about Dune Part 2, literally everything about it. I loved seeing it with all of you.
Mm-hmm.
I loved shoving my hand into that popcorn bucket.
That could have went in so many directions. Yeah.
Feeling the tingle of those rubbery teeth on my wrist. I loved how long it was. I loved how loud it was. I loved...
this could just really apply to everything.
This is just every day on House of Art.
Movies.
You're kind of like, there's a charge in you right now.
Yeah. Arrakis. Dune is one of my favorite stories in the world. It's one of my favorite books ever. It is a formative tale in our universe and in our lives. I thought that Dune Part 1 was sensational. I love every Denis Villeneuve movie. And so my expectation for Dune Part 2 could just simply not have been higher. Like where we left off in Part 1 and what we knew was coming based on the source material in this book. Every interview that Villeneuve had given, the way that he talked about the idea of the Messiah, it was so apparent to us that one of the things that we love about Frank Herbert's mission in the text was going to be like paramount in this film. And it not only did not disappoint, it's one of those things where you go in with the hype so high, you're like, am I building myself up to be let down? No, it somehow managed to exceed expectations. Every time I saw it, I liked it more. It was visually astonishing. Despite the filmmakers' thoughts and feelings about dialogue, I thought that the script was dynamite. And when I got to see Timmy stand there and say, I am Paul Atreides, Duke of Arrakis, I felt that my life had meaning and purpose at last. That was what I loved about Dune. Do you guys remember when he called a grandfather worm? When he rode Shai-Hulud?
I thought you were going to say, do you remember in that same scene when he stood in front of everyone and said, Dune, the title of the movie, very loudly, which was my favorite part. Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah.
I got a chill when he said Dune.
So you like this movie a little bit.
I love Muad'Dib.
Yeah.
Usul.
Mm-hmm.
It's wonderful stuff.
Yeah.
It's the best. I love spice.
What is spice?
Spice is a hallucinogenic.
No, I know. But is it like, what's the metaphor? What is your take on the metaphor? Like, what is it supposed to be real world?
It's just a genuine question. Are you aware of Frank Herbert's personal penchant toward
so it's
mushrooms?
Drugs, but not oil.
I mean, it's all resources,
Yeah.
but it is definitely also drugs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean that. Yes.
Yeah, so it's a sci-fi allegory and a commentary on our political state, our ecological state. It's all of that, and also Frank Herbert's like I really like to do mushrooms.
Drugs. That I knew.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen both films.
Yeah.
And read the plot summaries of everything that happens next. So.
Oh,
you're on the
interesting.
wikis.
Yeah.
You.
I know what happens.
spoilers.
CR.
Yeah, but
the
it's
CR move.
actually every time we talk about Dune Part 3, which I think like will be made, but Sean is just in the dark about some of the challenges that Dune Part 3 might present.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot coming.
But I know.
You're not a Dune Messiah head?
I just don't know what's going to happen, and I'm looking forward to learning when I see the film.
Interesting.
Whenever they decide to make the film. Is there anything you'd like to add about Dune Part 2? That was a lot of things.
As per usual, Mallory has covered most everything exquisitely. I will just share 2 fond memories from the screening that we all attended together.
Mm-hmm.
One was when Mallory shoved her popcorn bucket in Sean's direction, and he said, "No, thank you." And he had to say it multiple times.
Always polite.
That was great.
That was good.
And then in the lobby afterwards, Sean was like, did you like it? And I was like, yeah, I loved it. And you said, isn't it nice that there's a movie that we can all like?
Yeah.
Our beloved film snobs. We like drooling IP lovers.
Yeah.
We all like it.
Charles loved it.
It was 10 ringer
Everyone loved it.
people
Yeah.
in the same screening. And we
I-
all were like,
dynamite.
I thought you were going to say the moment when we were all watching
Van,
together
yeah.
and Paul makes his choice and Van just goes, "What?"
Yeah.
really loudly and in an
I
English
think
way.
he said, "God damn."
Yeah. It
Great
was
stuff.
really good.
That was good.
Yeah.
That was very
Yeah,
fun.
it's a good movie. I like it when they fly, at the very beginning.
Where are you some months removed from the film on Austin Butler's voice work?
This was the conversation we had in the lobby. Was about Austin Butler.
I feel great about everything that Austin Butler has done in 2024,
I agree.
including
I
staring
concur.
at that lady and being like, "You have an energy too." Have you
Did
guys seen
see
that
clip?
meme?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm like on Twitter these days,
Yeah.
but even I
Yeah.
saw that and I was
Yeah.
riveted.
It was a really good moment. If he just wanted to open a business of betting down divorcees, like he could do it today. Like if he has like
Betting
a
down.
very
When you say open a business, you mean like is this like a brothel? Is this like
if
a
he wanted to be a professional gigolo,
yeah.
he,
Right.
could,
Why
he
haven't-
could be the most
Why
highly
haven't they
paid
made a
gigolo in the
movie
world.
where Austin Butler is
Just
a professional
wait,
gigolo?
I know.
We're getting there.
John
yeah.
Bernthal shit all over that when they
Yeah.
remade American Gigolo.
Yeah.
God damn it.
shout out Showtime?
Yeah, that was not ideal.
R.I.P.
Did you watch that show to completion? I mean, completing the series.
It's funny when the tables are turned on you. It's good.
Mallory,
It's nice.
Mallory,
Oh my God.
Mallory, did you finish?
yeah, more than once actually. I've watched it many times. Bill and I had the pleasure of doing a Prestige TV.
Did you recap the whole show?
episode. Just the premiere,
pilot,
and
yeah.
that was enough.
Okay.
That was enough.
Okay.
Yeah, memorable
It's
experience.
too bad. So you are good ultimately with what Austin did in that movie. His performance as Stellan Skarsgård's lost son.
That's
Right.
an instantly
And
iconic
then
performance.
the only complaint I have is that what happens between Austin Butler and Leia Seydoux happens off screen.
Oh.
I
I think we both could have enjoyed that.
I
agree.
agree.
Yeah.
That
I agree.
could
That's
have brought
something for the-
everyone together.
That's
Yeah.
something for the whole family.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
something for the whole family. When
Yeah.
canonically we know that it was like he loves to be humiliated.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Put your hand
Put
in
your
the
hand in
box.
the box, and he did. Folks, he
Something
did.
for all of us.
Yeah.
Who among us would not want to be
Right.
humiliated by Leia Seydoux?
Exactly.
Any other deep thoughts? Dune Part 2. So you're claiming this. You don't have it. What's
No,
your runner-up?
I'll bring my back
You have a runner-up?
just so
Okay.
you guys can have 10.
Yeah.
Exciting.
This is exciting. We don't know what it is.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bobby, keeping secrets.
I also have no idea.
Well, hopefully I'm not. Anyway, it's The Fall Guy.
Okay, good.
Oh,
I'm
good.
glad you're
Okay.
doing this.
Yeah.
I've seen this movie.
Good.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
The Fall Guy.
Very
a
charming
movie
movie.
that
Loved it.
The Big Picture likes, a movie that House of Art likes.
Great movie.
I saw this at South by the premiere. And I was a little worried that I had gotten South by pilled because like when you're in the premiere at South by Southwest and the actors are there and everyone is all hyped up and I had the best time. That was like one of the best screening experiences I've ever had at South by. And so I was like, oh no, was it just I was high on the room. But then I saw it again when it opened wide and I had an equally wonderful time and I was genuinely baffled by the response to the movie.
Yeah.
Both like
I agree.
critically and commercially. I know that it's had like something of a long tail and that's great, but like this was a really charming movie. It reminded me a lot of like late 80s, early 90s action adventure romance, like Romancing the Stone, like just like fun and sexy and exciting and funny and
Great dog
and like
performance.
in all
Great
of that,
performance
in
from the dog.
among
Yeah.
all of that is this genuine love letter to cinema, which I thought was just
Yeah.
wonderful. This like love letter to
Yeah.
the people who don't get credit for making these movies that we love. And so I thought Gosling was great. I thought Blunt was great. I thought Winston Duke was great. I thought Aaron Taylor Johnson's Matthew McConaughey impression was
Really
great.
very,
Like
very
I
good.
just had
Yep.
a wonderful time at this movie. Fun time at the movies.
I wonder if
Great
the
pick.
movie was just released on like July 19th, if it just would have never become the flashpoint that it did become about what's wrong and how everything is terrible. And now we're on like
it
a
needed
month
the,
later,
like,
everybody's
Inside
like,
Out
we're back.
2,
It's fine.
The Inside Out 2 like opener, and then we hit him with Fall Guy.
We wouldn't have gotten one of the best moments in Ringer history, which was Amanda saying to Charles, take my hand.
Yeah, exactly.
It was worth it.
I did actually. The only problem with you taking
that was my concern.
So
did I steal it from
Charles,
you?
as of this recording, has not yet picked a film because he can't think of one from 2024.
He tried to claim one from
and
2023.
I was going to make him pick the half of Fall Guy that he enjoyed because he finally did see it and begrudgingly liked half of it.
Well, that's a lot for Charles.
Right.
Yeah.
So I did suggest that, but we'll get to it.
Sorry.
Don't worry.
Sorry, Midnight Boys.
Those are both great picks. Are you feeling down about the state of movies thus far this year?
I just don't think it's a deep bench
It hasn't
of
been
options.
robust. It hasn't
But
been robust.
I think
Some
Dune
high
2
highs.
is like genuinely a masterpiece.
Yeah.
I think Challengers is genuinely a masterpiece.
Loved it.
If you ask me, like, is Fall Guy the best movie of the year? I will say no, but I'm happy to like champion it. And I think it was really, really fun, and I'm really, really glad it exists.
You loved Dementis?
Right, Furiosa happened, and I feel mixed positive about that. And then there's just like a bunch of really interesting things to come, but it is an oddly barren. I mean, you guys know because you podcast about
twice
movies
a week.
twice
We're
a
here.
week.
Yeah.
Trying to figure
We're
it out.
doing it. We're making
Just
it
watched
work.
Under Paris. Do you want my review of that?
I would.
Yeah, the movie where the shark goes under the water. Is anyone picking it, Bobby?
Not so far. Although
Yeah,
maybe Adam
so
Nayman will take
anyway,
it.
Turns out that's a movie about eco-politics and Paris hosting the Olympics.
Oh, bonjour.
Yeah.
Okay.
And who is the Sen for? You know?
Is it for you?
Not currently because
Okay.
it's full of shit, but that's a different story. That doesn't really. In this case, the shark is the metaphor for the alarming amounts
Literal
of E.
shit?
coli. Yeah. They're having a real problem. I don't know if they're going to
Fecal
get
matter.
it sorted out.
Tough.
Yeah.
Not ideal.
Watch this space.
Thanks for breaking
Not
that down.
ideal.
Yeah.
Fecal matter?
Not
Not
ideal.
ideal. What a hot take, Mallory. How brave. But yeah, I'm not stressed. I mean, people need their headlines, but I think all of the like alternate like pearl clutching versus like exultating weekend to weekend is exhausting and an overreaction. I think we just need to see how the year as a whole shakes out, right?
I agree. Thank you both for doing this and being here. Thanks for bringing this
Thanks for having
incredible
us.
kinetic
Yes.
energy.
It's just a thrill to be here with you always. When will we be invited back next?
Yeah, to draft.
Since you haven't insulted me and forced me to delete this episode, I will find another time. When would you like to be back?
As soon as possible, but
I would like to
when we're
invent time
done-
travel and go back and join you for the Kevin Costner Hall of Fame, which is a regret I'll carry to my grave.
Do you have any? Give the feedback right
You
now.
know
Let's
what?
go.
You know-
Let's go.
can't.
If you were
let's
not
go.
in production
No, I
on
know.
Talk the Thrones,
I know.
you would have been my first call.
I know.
But
I did
unfortunately-
receive a text message from Adam in the middle of a workday that said, Sean betrayed you. Are you aware? And I said, no. Sean asked me a couple weeks ago if I would have the time. And he was very thoughtful to
what's your
leave
number?
it open.
What's the number one?
Well,
I know.
Well, yeah, but we put it in.
Yeah. It's just I wanted to share the
You just
experience
wanted to be on
with
board.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me ask you
But
a question.
Yeah.
Have you seen Mr. Brooks?
No.
It's like one of the big
Yeah.
holes. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
You have seen it?
Yeah.
Did you like it?
It's fine.
Okay.
It's fine.
Because neither of us could see it's not streaming anywhere.
Oh, really?
It's
one
like
of those,
almost
You
like
can't
he
rent
deleted
it.
Doesn't
it, so
exist.
you
It feels like he
can't-
deleted
yeah.
it or
It's
something.
fine. You didn't
Okay.
miss out on
It's
anything
his
amazing.
1999 movie draft. You know, it's gone. You know? You can get like a DVD of it at Walmart, but
But
that's
everyone
it.
knows.
Do you think
Everyone
someone
knows
called
what
him
happened.
the Nuzzler in that episode, or
Maybe that's why he became a
Yeah.
serial killer. You know, he was
Mm.
insulted and he had to take it out on all of his victims. Well, great job,
spoiler.
guys. Thanks so much for bringing your positivity. And you'll be invited back definitely super soon. It's going to be like very, very, very soon.
any second now? Great.
Okay, we're here with Chris Ryan. Chris is occasionally on this show. He's been in search of third chair. Maybe you'll get it after this segment. You're here to
I
talk
don't
about.
think so, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're here to talk about your favorite movie of the year so far. Do you have any guesses as to what Chris might
She heard
pick?
me, I told
Well,
her.
I heard him say
no.
it. Maybe you will actually get the chair.
Because of this?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Do you think it's because you're taking it from him? I thought you.
No.
I mean,
I haven't made a pick.
You're playing to your base right now.
So are you two waiting?
No, I had to claim mine to take it from Rob Mahoney, which actually proved prescient.
Good.
So I have mine. Sean's waiting to.
I'm
You'll
in the-
just take whatever the floor, like
Yeah,
whatever.
I'm in the non-brat division of this show, so I'm happy to wait.
You literally banned an entire subset of Ringer staffers from this podcast.
Only in
and
joking
I
way.
was just, trying to get to talk about a film I love before.
That's great.
Wait, which subset?
The Ringerverse.
Oh, they're not allowed to like talk about Deadpool versus Wolverine or something? Or?
No, well, after they came in and just kicked the shit out of the three of us in the 99 draft, and I was like, you guys will never be back. And then the next week, I was like, Charles, I need you on the show. Can you come on this episode?
So should I just tell you what my favorite film of the year is?
Please do.
It's Civil War.
Good for you.
Good
for you, Chris.
I had a couple other candidates in my head, and then some of the films that have been selected already are very much in the clubhouse with me. But Civil War was probably the most enthralled I was at a movie this year, the most thought-provoking movie of the year. Really appreciated the fact that it was very contemporary and while set in an alternative kind of timeline, not timeline, but like reality, was not like on another planet or, in the past or anything. It's just like, this is what it's like to be Kirsten Dunst and drive around and take pictures of a Civil War. So I just thought, this one was the one I think is still stuck with me. Even after our divisive conversation about it, I still thought it was just an incredible achievement.
What's your response to that?
Chris is allowed to make his own picks and have his own thoughts. And if this movie inspired thoughts from him, then I commend him.
If we continue to reach across the aisle like
working
this,
overtime.
we won't have a
See,
Civil
that's
War.
the thing, is that we're not as different as we seem, and it's just if we could all come together.
Are you speaking to him or are you speaking to me? I didn't pick the movie.
Has this movie dimmed, brightened in?
I've only seen it once.
Okay.
So I would like to see it again. I was quite taken with it. I was even more taken with it as a filmmaking exercise than an ideas exercise, though I do think it is richer than some people think it is.
Sure, yeah.
I find it to be an interesting stopping point for Alex Garland, where he's like, I need a break because I did something that I don't want to try to do again. And that I could sense the difficulty of the production. And, to our conversation about movies like Horizon, I'm always going to be like, wow, that was hard. That feels more interesting to me, which is maybe a simple-minded thought, but it always occurs to me. The one thing that I like about that movie is that it was successful. That a movie like that can be successful. I find to be very encouraging, and I think even though some of the marketing drove people absolutely insane, I think that was really smart.
I actually also think that it's the sign of a healthy cinematic environment when some of our most revered directors are also disliked by some people. Yorgos, obviously, we were just joking about.
You're just doubling down, huh?
How would you even know? You haven't seen any of his films.
You did?
Positive feedback.
Okay.
What did they say?
Just people being like, I stand with you, CR.
Yeah.
That's what they said? Where did they say it? Just in your local eateries? Were you in a diner and a man came up to you and said, "Sir, thank you for your work," standing against Yorgos Lanthimos' abstract, odd filmmaking? Eating
pancakes, and a guy came up to me and was like, I heard what you said about Poor Things, and I too haven't seen it. Thanks for... No, I think it's actually good. It reminds me of more healthy, fun times when it was there's a half of the people think this guy is a fucking genius and half people think he is completely full of shit. Yeah. That means we're getting enough good movies to get takes like that off. We're not in a realm where we're like, oh, we have to protect any effort to make a decent movie.
So we're recording this discussion on the eve of the first president. The day of. First, right. I meant maybe more like the eve of the hour of the first presidential debate of 2024.
Predictions.
And I'm just wondering if you think, do you think the film Civil War will come up? And if so, who would quote it?
Okay, this is a great question. 100% Trump would be like, I saw it, I financed it, I loved it, I hated it, I didn't see it.
He's right. And
I love Alex Garland. He's a beautiful man. He's gonna build my Space Force. And then Biden will say...
Biden will just be like, I don't believe in civil wars. I believe in bringing people
What's
together.
What's so civil about war anyway?
No, he would be like, I remember when the Civil War was just the sharks and the jets and the edge and knives. The only problem we had to solve was the problem with Maria. That's not how he talks at all. Oh my God. I've been podcasting for 3 hours now today. So,
are you okay?
Yeah, but I just lost my Biden imitation.
Okay. Was there anything in second place in terms of
yeah, you want to know what it was?
Yeah.
Can I say it? Snack Shack.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. I may end up taking Snack Shack based on how all this shakes out.
In some ways, an uncomplicated, yes. that's like
It's a fun movie.
Love it.
every couple of years somebody has a great coming of age movie. I'm glad we're still making them. This one's set in 90s Nebraska, and it's fucking awesome.
Co-sign that entirely. Chris, thank you.
Sure.
Any other material you want to work out here?
Well, you didn't give us your answer about who won the debate tonight.
I'm honestly, you can have the chair. It can be yours for the rest of the year.
Second chair.
There you go. I'm out.
Wow. What a glow up.
What are you gonna do? It's
Gonna go
TBD.
Yeah, we're gonna go canvas for Trump. What do you think? Thanks, CR. The Midnight Boys are here. We're talking about the best movies of 2024 so far. Just quickly, you guys talk about movies all the time on your show. Has this been a good movie year?
Not really.
No. I've been on this episode of The Big Pick a couple times now, and this was the one where I'm going back and forth with Bobby. I'm like, dog, is this movie available?
Can we
nah.
Can we put your Chiron in? Are you aware of his
most important culture critic?
Most controversial.
Most controversial
important.
Yeah.
I don't agree with. Controversial. I definitely. Yeah. What's the guy from Rotten Tomatoes that like hates everything? What's his name? The critic. You guys know him.
Yeah, we don't actually.
I don't.
Yeah,
I don't fuck with Rotten Tomatoes.
This guy is a very famous Armand something.
Oh, Armand White.
Well,
Yes,
he's not
Armand
from
White.
Rotten Tomatoes.
I thought he was from Rotten Tomatoes.
No.
He wrote for the New York Press for many years.
But he's legendary.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a G in this?
Yeah,
Well,
it's really
sort of.
It's hard to hate on things with the creativity and the passion that he does on a regular basis. It's true.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're taking the mantle from Armand White.
I think Charles is better.
That is high class.
So, but would you like to have a Chiron on the big picture? What would you like yours to say? I'm just volunteering Aleya and Jack's talents. I'm sorry, guys. I love you so much.
Cuddliest bear ever.
Okay, great. There we go.
Cuddliest bear ever. When you see me, just fucking hug me.
Can you make sure that isn't under me as well? That it's like a van only? Yeah, okay. Okay.
Well,
welcome.
Thank you. I always love to be here with you guys.
The cuddliest bear and the most controversial critic in America are here to share their favorite movies. It hasn't been a very good movie year. We've talked about this at the top of the show.
Though.
The energy,
yeah.
You know.
There's been some very high highs. It's been tricky because a lot of people grabbed 2 or 3 of the very most exciting movies from the year so far.
Mal got Dune 2 so fast, bro.
Honestly,
I thought the way.
If I could file a protest, there was a ringer place where I could file, I would have filed a protest.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've seen Dune 12 times.
What?
In theaters.
What?
I've seen it.
Stop. 12 times in theaters?
Okay.
I saw Dune 3 times here.
Okay.
Twice in New York. Once in Miami.
That's 6.
Once in Austin.
Were you trying to see different IMAX experiences around the country?
Or were you going with different people?
Okay, no. Because like what happened is you guys remember I was traveling a lot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would be traveling a lot and I didn't have anything to do. And I'm no longer allowed to go to strip clubs. That was negotiated. So when I had downtime, I would ask what the best
source of free air
IMAX
conditioning has switched.
Yeah, what the best IMAX theater in a town was. I remember I was in Texas and someone said, go to Bob Bradley IMAX or something like that in Texas. I went there and saw it. Best IMAX, I went there and saw it. I saw the movie a bunch of times. Bunch of times. And the mouse snuck and she took it away from me.
Okay, hold on. So 7?
Mm-hmm.
When was 8 and 9?
Wait, I do have to point out the one thing that movie theaters and strip clubs have in common is never eat the seafood. That's the one thing.
Okay, you're right, except for one place.
Oh,
okay.
Right.
Where they have good shrimp.
You up for this.
Yeah,
I've heard this before.
This is Tampa.
Yeah, I know
All
about
right.
this.
Isn't Tampa landlocked?
So this is the thing about Tampa, though. This thing about Tampa. Tampa's an underrated strip club. I mean, it's not an underrated strip club.
It's not. Excuse me, Magic Mike.
It is.
Respect applies, please.
But like, there's one place in Tampa, and I really can't talk about that place because it went way too far. But there's one place in Tampa that has great fried shrimp.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Yeah. I
Fried
mean, you
shrimp.
definitely want it to be cooked. But in general, I mean, I love fried shrimp, as you know. My Southern coming through.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. Atlanta. I saw it once in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Twice.
Me steering the boat
Oh, where?
back in the direction of the pod.
but I wanted him to name all 12. Okay, so
7. You saw it 7 times in theaters.
No.
Was
I
it
saw
more than that?
12 times in theaters.
Okay, so name 8
I'm
through
actually
12.
not gonna be remembered.
Go.
So I saw, but these are the cities.
This is what I deal with every
You've
single
already recorded a pod with him this morning.
Yeah, these
so
are the cities. Houston and Dallas and Atlanta. That's the 12.
Okay, do you remember where in Atlanta?
No, I don't.
Okay.
It was like, I think it was at is there one in Phipps Plaza?
Of course.
Yeah.
Excuse me. That was one of my childhood theaters. That and Lenox across the street.
Despite seeing it 12 times, you're not allowed to pick Dune Part 2.
I can't.
Mallory selected it. Joanna would have selected it too, frankly. If she
Everybody would have selected it.
I might have selected it.
Yeah,
you know, would you have selected it?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Bobby said I couldn't pick Iron Claw because that didn't come out this year.
I mean, it
those
didn't.
are the rules.
It came out.
This is
Well,
2024.
I thought we were doing Oscar. window.
No Oscar window. It was released December 15th, 2023. I'll let Van go first, and then you can. I've forgotten what you're picking. What did you pick?
I'm doing A Quiet Place Day 1.
Yeah.
First of all, I just saw it, so it's fresh in my mind. And, you know, oftentimes prequels, well, not oftentimes prequels also always have to do two things. Number one, they have to be good movies. You want to see a good movie, but they also have to sort of negotiate and litigate their own existence. Like, why is this movie made? They have to validate their existence. Like, why is this movie being made? Like, what's the point of this story when we know where we are right now? And with, A Quiet Place, the last movie came out, supposed to come out during the pandemic, then it came out after. It was a big hit. This film, it makes sense to see the first day of this.
Mm-hmm.
It deepens the story. It makes the first movie better. It makes the second movie better to see this story of how things got to where they are. It expands the lore a little bit. There's actually a part in the movie where, I don't want to spoil anything, but there's a scene that you're like, okay, what are these aliens actually doing?
Mm-hmm.
And then that you're looking for that to be paid off in the sequel that I guess is coming next year or the year after. I think that there's a sequel coming.
You're talking about when the cat escapes, that sequence.
When the cat escapes, that sequence, and then
we actually didn't talk about that when we talked about the episode.
I don't remember that sequence.
I'll tell you after we're done. So to not spoil it, but that is a very interesting moment where that's the one time where you're like, what is happening right now? Because
typically in these movies, like, we don't learn very much about these extraterrestrials, right? Like, they are these harbingers, and these you gotta be quiet around them, so obviously you can't communicate with them. But in that scene, you see them doing something that's a little bit more organized and a little bit more, okay, what's the end goal and the plan here or whatever? And I guess that'll be paid off in the next movie. I'll say this. If you're looking for the feel-good movie of the summer, this ain't it.
No, it's so upsetting.
It's very sad,
right?
If you're looking for, and not just on We Can't Talk era, on a human level, this is a tough watch.
Yeah.
I remember, like, leaving the theater, I looked at Kalika, I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna look at another one of them motherfuckers. I'm serious. I mean, not everyone has, obviously the premise here is Lupita's character is terminally ill, so that adds another level of, but I'm like, but beyond that, terrifying, absurdly well acted. Like, when I say absurdly well acted,
for the prequel to A Quiet Place to be as good as it, the whole movie in general, I said on the episode, I was like, it's shocking to me how good this is.
Yeah, and so I really, really, really dug it. So that would be my, if I can't pick Dune 2, we talked about it, that would be the best movie I've seen all year long.
Have you seen Quiet Place 3 yet?
I've never seen any A Quiet Place.
Whoa.
I don't do horror movies. I don't.
But I don't either, and I've seen all three.
Do you think of it as a horror movie?
No.
When things are popping out, because like I've seen a little bit of it, I'm like, I can't. I can't.
I did. There was one scene where like I jumped in my seat a little. I startle quite easily.
Same.
But it didn't mess with me. The thing, what I'm learning as I spend more time chained to Sean's movie interests, is that the type of horror movie that I don't like is like gross, like gross out horror, and this is not gross at all. It's a little frightening at times, and it's definitely sad and emotionally moving. But a lot of horror is just like they're trying to scare you, but you can kind of guess what's going to happen.
I live alone, and there's already a ghost in my apartment. I'm not doing that.
Oh, but also you believe in ghosts?
There's a fucking ghost in my
apartment. What? Tell me more about your ghost. Like what? Where? From what time period?
It followed me from Brooklyn because first I was smoking a lot of weed, and I saw this little girl in my kitchen whenever I was high, and she'd just be standing there, and I'm like.
So sort of like a Shining experience.
Yeah, and then I came here, and then I was like,
what do you think that she wants from you?
Honestly, I just feel like that's like another life, you know? I was like this little girl.
Oh, so you think it's you in another life, and you haven't...
Are you aware of this?
I haven't heard about it
Let
before.
go.
Probably the reason why.
So it was another life?
Yeah.
What do you think that you need that this little girl or you in the other life need to resolve?
Honestly, get rid of the most controversial culture critic.
Okay.
Like she's probably like hating.
That's a good premise.
She's like your blood pressure, the hating, all that shit. Go marry someone, have kids, leave this life behind.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, you think it's a manifestation of your own
I think she was a little cultural critic. Like in her time, she kind of got burned at the stake. And
now,
she's just
okay.
Now we've lost it a little. We had sold it.
I was feeling that as an idea for a movie, which is a really good idea for a movie.
It is.
It is. By the way,
but I do need to know the payoff to determine whether it's a
you
good
guys
movie.
actually think I'm like joking? Like I actually see a little girl.
We got to get Shyamalan on the phone. I
know.
feel like this
he
is
would
like the
love
Sixth Sense
that.
too. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm all about premise now. After the trailer for Flight Risk came out.
Oh my God. I'm so glad you're here. Let's talk. Because I teed you
this?
up on this.
Y'all need a pilot, right?
Huh?
Y'all need a pilot?
Yeah, that's
I saw this at CinemaCon. I didn't even bring it up because I was like, I can't have Amanda just like look at me mad about Flight Risk. This is Mel Gibson's return to the directing chair.
Mm-hmm.
Stars Mark Wahlberg. And who are the other stars?
I don't know. Oh, Topher Grace.
Wait, is this Mark
Oh my
Wahlberg
God.
with the fucking craziest haircut I've ever
Yes.
seen?
Yeah.
Mark
I'm
Wahlberg
up.
balding. And Topher Grace is a criminal. And he's being transported
Mm-hmm.
to a safe
Testify.
place to testify against what seems like the mafia. And it turns out Mark Wahlberg is there because he's been hired by the mafia.
Yeah, there's a U.S. Marshal that's on the plane with them. I'm assuming a U.S. Marshal, right? That's who it. And Mark Wahlberg has killed the pilot and is piloting the plane to kill this guy before he gets a chance to testify. And mid-flight, the Marshal clocks it. And so now he's chained up. He has to teach them how to fly the plane. It's
You had me at Topher Grace. I've had Topher Grace stock for a while.
Whole movie takes place on a plane. Again, Mel Gibson directing. I'm just going to repeat that.
Yeah.
I'll watch it. I'll see it opening day.
I'll go see it, yeah.
I'm a Flight Risk, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm interested.
It's good. Looks good. That's going to be the best movie of 20. That's this year.
The
or next
second
year?
half, yeah.
Yeah.
I think is it October? Yeah.
Okay.
Charles, what movie you doing?
You know, as the most controversial culture critic, I can admit when I'm wrong on this show. And at the time that I was on the show 2 episodes ago,
No way.
My appearances, I was very harsh on one of Amanda's favorites.
Oh, no way you're going to do this.
Well, you also I'm go ahead. Here, I take my hand. Yeah, there
You've
we
been
go.
shitting on this movie for months. There's no way you're going to do this.
Actually, I'm fucking with you. I'm
Yeah,
not-
I was about to say.
No.
I was about to say, bro.
Well,
I was.
I wanted you to do it just so I could tell you. Here, give me because this is like double betrayal. You can't have the Fall Guy because Joanna already
She
took
already
it.
took it.
Joanna? All right, what's going on with House of R? Can we talk about this?
Yeah.
They get Fall Guy and Dune 2?
Well, they recorded before you, so
All right, fuck all this
Did
shit.
you end up seeing it, Fall Guy?
I did.
And
and you thought half of it was charming.
I thought half of it was charming, but I'm not gonna lie. Once they put on that DJ Khaled, it went from Taylor Swift to DJ Khaled. I'm like, get these white people out of here, bro. Like, I'm not doing it. So my movie, after not being able to pick a lot of movies, I think that this is definitely the year where even if it's a weak movie year, now that the MCU, DC, Star Wars are kind of faltering, I feel like we're starting to get movies where we're seeing like who are the movie stars and getting people like Glen Powell and Timothée Chalamet just doing like, I'm just like, oh shit, we have stars again. So I'm going with Monkey Man because while it's not
nice.
while it's not a perfect movie, it was one of those moments where I'm just like, oh, I want to see Dev do more shit now.
Totally.
yeah.
And it was like, it's the type of movie where I went home and I started watching other martial arts movies because I was just like, oh, I want this. We're not getting this in Hollywood anymore. And that was when I went to go see it in theater. I was just like, what could he do with a bigger budget? I think Dev has kind of been in a role a little bit lost in Hollywood where he's super charming. He can command the screen. And I just kind of just not only want to see him in more movies, now I'm like, he has something as a director. I don't think he pulled it off completely in Monkey Man, but there were moments in the movie where I was just like, oh, this is a guy who's thinking about film, thinking about what Hollywood's missing. And I just,
Hamstrung by the limitations of the budget of the movie, I'd say. But it's funny that you brought up Monkey Man because this was my thought about Monkey Man. I just watched Ocean's 11 a couple of nights ago, which is
not for the first time.
No.
Okay,
I've seen it a lot of times.
Just making sure.
But the movie gets cooler as I get older. It's just like maybe the coolest movie ever made.
It's a justification of being in your 50s, yeah.
Yeah, for sure,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And
having friends.
Yeah, I
Brad
guess so,
Pitt
yeah.
says something to
A
Linus's
team.
Brad Pitt says something to Linus's character in the movie that I think describes Monkey Man for me. He's telling him how to talk to Terry Benedict, and he says he's got to like you and then forget about you the moment that the moment that you're gone. That was Monkey Man for me. Like, I liked it, but I literally haven't thought of the movie since I left the theater. And so, like, I wonder what that says about the movie. I liked Monkey Man. Like, I legitimately liked it. Like, I was like, hey, I had a good time. But I haven't thought about Monkey Man. I forgot totally about Monkey Man. You could have convinced me that Monkey Man came out in last year. And I've been like, oh, yeah, I saw Monkey Man last year. But
That's a tough one. I think we both had the exact same reaction that you did, which is like, this didn't totally work, but I like what it indicates Dev Patel can be as an auteur who's also, basically like pulling a Robert Redford, being like, I'm going to, or Clint Eastwood, like, I'm going to put myself in my own movies. I'm the star. Not all Clint Eastwood movies are good, but he kept putting himself in those movies. So I liked that. The problem that I had with it is entirely made of the marketing, which is, I thought that was like one of the sickest trailers in years. I was so hyped for the movie before it came out. So when I sat down, I was like, we will have an action classic today, sir. And then we didn't, it's like, it was pretty good.
There were a couple good scenes, the training scene in particular. I thought he was great. There was also just, I knew so much about the making of the movie by the time that I got to the movie that I was also just sitting there dissecting and being like, oh, interesting. So this was probably tweaked and, which is on me. Like, I'm the asshole of being like, here are the cuts.
Too much about, I almost died on this movie, and then you're watching it, and I'm like, oh, I can tell.
Right. And like some of the, like, the political influence and all of that stuff. So it's not a perfect movie. I agree with you, but it's a good pick. He was great.
Yeah. I enjoyed it. Question. So, being that we're essentially halfway through the year, is it just a foregone conclusion that once we get to the fall, Dune is like 10 Oscars No.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think one of the reasons why they are not announcing the title of the next Denis Villeneuve movie, which was just dated for 2026, is because it probably is going to be Dune Messiah.
They said it's Dune Messiah.
That's not confirmed.
Oh, okay.
And I think they're not confirming it because they want to keep the possibility of it winning Best Picture open. Because the minute that they tell you that there's another Dune movie coming, it's not going to win Best Picture. That's a theory. One of the reasons. I think it's not the kind of movie that the Oscars usually give Best Picture.
They're snobs in like a very, very retro way. Like Christopher Nolan won for Oppenheimer and not for any of his sci-fi epics
Inception,
or
Dark Knight.
any of the superhero movies. They need the one that's like dressed up in the historical clothing. So
I think there's a high possibility that this is a year where a very small movie or a foreign language movie wins Best Picture because of the strikes. We'll see.
No, I get it. It's just like it when I think about movies this year, I think about that movie and everything in its orbit. And obviously we haven't even gotten to the point where they see their Oscar movies and they do their whole thing. We're not to that point. But I'm just trying to think about.
No, but I was thinking about going to Telluride in the fall, and I'm like, I don't even know what's premiering here. Like, if you asked me to guess 10 movies, I can maybe come up with 5. I usually feel like I can clock 75% of what the slate's going to be, and that's a big launch pad for a lot of Oscar movies. It seems like a much thinner herd this year.
Dune 2 will get 10, 12 nominations for sure, and I think it will be like the big budget.
Representative,
and also like on the technical, and also like on the technical side, like all of the crafts. I think there was some, maybe like Furiosa would slide in there, and it seems less likely, at least in the above the line categories. So
Furiosa missed. It didn't miss.
I'm glad you brought it up. I mean, it's not represented on this episode, which is kind of weird because on the one hand, it is a really impressively made movie that I think everyone at the Ringer likes and doesn't love. I think that's true for you guys. I know it's true for Joanna. I know it's true for you. It's true for me. It's true for Chris. Really like it. Don't love it. And there is a very loud contingent of people who insist upon its like true masterpiece greatness. But I don't know what to say. Like, I feel like we're all honestly responding.
It's a 7 out of 10, and film Twitter keeps trying to bully me into liking that shit, and I'm just like, come on, we got to give it. Like, when people started being like, it's better than Fury Road, I'm like, all right, guys, we just let's time out.
Yeah, honestly, I think if there was no Fury Road, we might look at Furiosa differently.
Yeah.
But the movie and he is just a ridiculously good filmmaker. Some of the scenes, the stuff is just like it's crazy.
People have been clipping out the rig chase from Furiosa and putting it on Twitter now. That sequence, where they're like guys are flying up. And that scene is so crazy. It's like it's literally one of the coolest things I've ever seen in a movie theater. But it's just a 3-minute scene. It's not a 2.5-hour movie.
The thing is, I talked about a prequel. I talked about the Quiet Place prequel, and you come away with it going, okay, that makes sense. It expanded the world. It made it bigger. It deepened it. This is why. This is the good prequel. This isn't like, I always bring up Carlito's Way Rise to Power. I used to love those prequels, man. Yeah. The thing that's most missing about the straight to DVD era is the Skulls 2 with some fucking dude that plays on California Dreamin' on NBC.
What are you talking about? Netflix is nothing but the straight to DVD era.
But they don't take the movies that were big movies and then make Cruel Intentions 2 anymore. They don't do that.
Got into a fight with my daughter yesterday morning. It was a true story where she was like, I need you to put on the Sleeping Beauty 2 song. And I was like, Alice, there is no Sleeping Beauty 2. And she was like, there is, and you will put it on because she's used to Frozen 2 and Lion King 2. And she's like, I need the new version of Sleeping Beauty. I'm like, girl, this does not exist.
But Furiosa didn't do that for me. I didn't leave Furiosa going, okay, this movie should have been made. Like, I get why it was made, but like, it doesn't, for the prequel thing that you have to go, okay, this expands the world and this makes it make more sense and I wanted to know this and I wanted to, kind of didn't. Like a sequel with Charlize Theron coming back would have made more sense.
Yeah, they didn't do Anya any. Yeah. I was just like, you don't have a Charlize.
And she was just fine.
She was good.
And the like movie's only half interested in her because it's also so interested in the Chris Hemsworth character. It's like it's not totally fair, but I agree.
Yeah.
Well, listen to the Midnight Boys on the Ringerverse feed. Listen to the Midnight Boys. You guys are covering the Bear on the Prestige TV pod.
Bear, Prestige, and guess what, guys? July, when is our Ringerverse Live?
You don't even know when the show is.
17th. It doesn't matter. Ringerverse Live.
July 17th.
Guys,
live
July
at the El Rey
17th
Theater.
At the El Rey Theater.
Right.
And guess what? We're premiering it now. We are getting one of the most eligible bachelors in LA, Jomi Adeniran.
Yeah.
If you want to date Jomi, okay?
I'm so glad someone's doing this.
We're having a dating game.
This has not been formally approved by Spotify.
I do feel like the live events should have more of like a single
gamified,
mix and match component.
So if you're looking for a lover boy in the streets,
I know, I really
come
do.
to Ringerverse Live, July 17th, El Rey Theater. Jomi Adeniran is about to find his wife.
Van, Charles, thank you guys. Rob Mahoney's here. Co-host of Group Chat, co-host of the Prestige TV podcast, occasional draft stealer.
My singular nemesis, but this time, Rob, should we let people in?
I think we should.
I have one-upped you because I betraying all of my like deeply held beliefs about hospitality and guests having choices and first pick. I claimed challengers before you could. And I specifically said I would like to take this before Mahoney does. And lo and behold, you tried to.
I did try to.
Yeah.
Bobby rebuffed me. It was off the board before I could even attempt to claim it. And I will say, that just seems needlessly cruel by you.
It was mean, but also how does it feel?
It feels to me like all I have done in all my appearances on this show is try to champion the movies that you love.
I know, right? But there is
the thanks that I get.
Uniquely personal to it, right? It hurts a little more.
It does hurt.
But
it really does.
I have paid attention and I've learned my lesson. And also I would say that your second choice is a great second choice.
I feel great about it because I would love to talk to you both about pie, about romance, about a little recreational murder, and about Richard Linklater's Hitman.
It's a great pick. Before you go any further about Hitman, I do want to say there's only one time I've ever felt this feeling, but it's seeing you in almost mercenary form slide into my position on the show when you attempt to undermine and attack Amanda's takes and take things from her.
Yeah.
And so it's been interesting watching you fight back now the way you'll fight back with me.
he does it like from a position of like camaraderie, you know?
Yeah.
He's just like,
How dare you? Are you saying that I don't offer camaraderie?
you by supporting you and your interests. Yeah, you don't care about anything I care about. You're just like, whatever, let me tell you more about some Westerns. And Rob does the work and is like, I see you, I understand you, and now I will take it from you. So maybe that's a lesson for everyone.
I don't know what's worse. They're both tough. Hitman is not tough. We agree with you. Hitman, definitely one of the best movies of the year. What'd you like about it, Rob?
I mean, Glen Powell,
Amen.
Adria Arjona, cons, hijinks. What more do you really need in a movie like this? And really, in 4 or 5 different movies like this that are all packaged together, and it's this shape-shifting thing that if you come into it with one idea, you might be kind of whipped around a little bit. But if you're along for the ride, I just found it to be an absolute blast and rewatchable in the best possible way.
One thing I wanted to ask you about when I heard you were picking this, and I wanted to bring it up with you too, since a lot of people have seen the movie now, is there's been quite a bit of pushback on the nihilistic ending. And we don't need to spoil specifically what happens, but I'm kind of curious, like how you responded to it the first time you saw it. Were you surprised? Did you buy into it right away? What was your take on it?
I mean, for me, it's a relief to have a story with that kind of ending that doesn't have the preachy monologue from a side character telling us exactly how we're supposed to feel about the primary action. So thank you, Richard Linklater and Glen Powell, primarily. That's exactly what I'm looking for a story like this.
Were you surprised that people
I agree. I was surprised that it ended that way. I mean, I remember it ended and I was like, so that's how they decided to end it, which, you know, is great on its own because to Rob's point, you definitely don't want the preachy, like, now the characters must learn their lesson. And you do want to be a little surprised by the end of the movie. To me, it's not ambiguous. I mean, I guess it is, but I know how I feel about what's going on. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty dark.
Yeah.
And maybe other people watch it differently and respond differently, and that's fine. But Rob said it exactly right. I did not, I didn't want a teachable lesson from this.
Right. I assume you haven't seen the film Twisters yet, right, Rob?
Not yet, but boy, would I love to. I'm along for the ride.
We're eating well at the Glen Powell table these days.
Just get fucking ready.
Yeah, very exciting times. Adria Arjona, did you have much experience with her? I know you watched Andor. Were there other times you'd seen her?
Really just Andor. And I mean, she blew me away in this movie. Both of them are just incredibly captivating. It's obviously really racy, sexy stuff for a lot of this movie. And for all, like, whatever questions you may have about the sort of watertightness or the plot holes or the ethical policing that may or may not be going on in this movie, there just aren't that many screenplays out there that have that are accompanied by this kind of electric chemistry between its leads. Like, you can find a great plot anywhere. You can't find this sort of connection. And so I think Adria Arjona was great, but I think her and Glen Powell is where it gets really special. Like, the connection between them is why this movie works and kind of transcends some of the problems you may have with the mechanics of it.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be an interesting artifact in the Linklater filmography, I think.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it will ultimately just be much more significant for Powell than for Linklater, because it is another reaction that I've heard is that this is a kind of confirmation because he is the center of the story.
Even more a confirmation for Glenn.
Yes.
Not for Richard Linklater.
Yeah.
I was like, does he need?
No, he doesn't need that.
We don't need that.
He got that in 1993.
That.
Yeah. No, he's been doing well for a long time. No, but obviously.
Yeah, that's fine. Everybody welcome on board.
Okay, okay.
Like we've been doing it since 2018. I'm glad
since set it up.
I'm glad that you guys all had something confirmed that we have known for many a time, many a year.
Do you think that was the 4th collab with Powell and Linklater? You think they'll go again, Rob?
God, I hope so. I think there's clearly something between them that just fundamentally works. And if anything, what Hitman does is show you the breadth of that, right? All those different versions, the farce, the kind of double twist film noir stuff that's happening in this movie. There's just kind of the steamy romance at the center of it. If you're piling all that on top of everything that already worked, like Everybody Wants Some is already like a late night comfort watch for me. I'm just going to throw it on for 20, 30 minutes. Now we have all this to work with too. Makes it very exciting to see where they could go from here.
I'm also looking forward to the inevitable Austin Emilio showing up in like a Marvel movie or something.
Yeah.
Like that guy whose profile is going to be elevated.
He is the Hulk now. I'm here to announce it.
He's the Hulk. How exciting. When Harrison Ford's Red Hulk
great.
and Austin Emilio's Hulk go toe to toe, how will you feel?
I'm not. Rob, before you go, who was your favorite Hitman of all of the many Hitmans?
It's tough. It's a tough category. I'm drawn toward what I called the Tilda Swinton.
Yes. And that is the correct appellation. I was trying to describe that Hitman on the podcast, and I had not yet gotten to Tilda Swinton, but that's it. Very
That's a good one.
Compelling. Yeah.
I think you two rightly zeroed in on the Patrick Bateman, which is great. Sean, I know in your heart of hearts, the January 6th guy was probably your dude.
Definitely. Well, I thought he had a lot of good ideas. I'm not sure how he was communicating them, but some good points. They all were fun. I mean, it's weird because that sequence of the movie where he's trying on all the different costumes is almost an entirely different movie than the following 30 minutes, and then an entirely different movie from the following 30 minutes after that, which is an unusual construction, I would say.
But I think the genius of the movie is, as Rob said, you just go along with it. And you're like, oh, okay, now we're doing this, and I want to know what happens, and I'm interested. And I didn't quite expect that, but sure.
I totally agree. Great pick, Rob. Rob, thanks so much for doing the show. Listen to Group Chat, listen to Prestige. We'll see you on the show soon. Mean Pod Guy is here. It's Adam Nayman, esteemed critic, friend, thoughtful thinker of films, and someone that is mean sometimes. How are you doing, Adam?
I'm good. Nice to see you guys.
We're talking about the best movies of 2024. There have been a lot of picks thus far. You've picked a movie that no one else has picked, of course. What's your pick for the best movie of 2024 so far?
I tried to cheat with two. I'll do the real one, and then we'll see if there's time at the end, because I also picked an NFT. But we'll pick.
This has been nothing but cheating so far. Everyone is stealing everyone else's picks. There's a lot of collusion and betrayal.
Yeah. I'm going to go with a movie that, even if it's a bit of a wild choice for best, because I don't think it's flawless, but I really like it and I really like the energy of it, which is Bertrand Bonello's The Beast, which is an adaptation of the Henry James short story of the same name, which is a turn of the 20th century text about basically a guy who fears that there's some beast waiting to get him, and twist, it's just life. Hate
when that happens.
They're spoiling The Beast too much. And Bonello's movie isn't really an adaptation. It's like an extrapolation of this text. He uses three narratives, all kind of the same narrative, but set in different times. There's a turn of the 20th century period piece, which is the closest it comes to being the book. There's a contemporary section featuring a relationship between an actress and a sort of incel possible serial killer, and then a futuristic segment, all of which feature Léa Seydoux and George Mackay, all of which kind of continue the same story with the idea that they are reincarnations or projections of the same personality through time. And when I saw it at TIFF last fall, I thought it was the least boring thing that I saw. by which I mean that there were other movies that were good, but they didn't have like Léa Seydoux doing hot yoga and sitting in a vat of blue goo or black goo and going to a discotheque that's just modeled after the year 1981 or whatever to go dance. Like, it's very eventful. And after 2 hours and 40 minutes of its eventfulness, I thought I really like this. And I'm predisposed to like this director, but I like this director when he makes big Lynchian swings at sci-fi profundity. So it's like The Fountain if it wasn't horribly bad.
That's an amazing summary of actually a movie that I would say is a bit more complex and at times confusing than many people will feel it is. It's helpful to have the exact grounding that I think you just provided for anyone who hasn't had a chance to see it yet. You also saw this movie at the Venice Film Festival.
I did.
I think you were a little less positive about it.
Well, Adam said when anyone is taking a grand Lynchian swing, I think it lands differently for Adam than for me, and that's okay.
You hit the snooze button when that happens.
I'm just like, okay, I see what you're doing
but,
here.
There was a guy, there was a person. It wasn't Amanda, because I was not in Venice. I was in Toronto. But there was a guy sitting next to me who walked out about halfway through, and that's fine. I mean, people leave at film festivals all the time. But I was like, what else do you have to do?
That's true.
Like, this movie is so crazy, and it's shooting the works in a way that's really kind of earnest and sincere, and it's such a show of talent. I mean, if you don't like it, that's fine. But where are you going? Like, you're pretty pot committed at this point. You're like an hour and 30 minutes into a 2.5 hour movie. Like, stay.
Right.
See what happens.
You also at that point would be leaving during the incel segment, which I thought was like the most successful of the three, for me anyway.
It's a stunning sequence. For context, for the the character that George McKay plays, he's directly quoting the sort of online manifestos of Elliot Rodger, which half the audience kind of got while the movie was playing. And if no one doesn't get it, it's not a problem. I mean, maybe it's better to not have Elliot Rodger's misogynist screed committed to memory, but like, it's pretty familiar text. And I thought it was pretty stunning what he was doing, which was using this incredibly public face of kind of pent up, misogyny, and then inserting him in what is basically a love story. And basically a story of two characters over time who are kind of meant for each other and for different extenuating circumstances don't connect. Like, that's one hell of an extenuating circumstance and one hell of a recontextualization of what it means to be sort of like obsessed with someone. And I should point out, by the way, that for most of that segment, he's like stalking Aleya Seydoux through a steel and glass Los Angeles palatial house where she's kind of house sitting. And I mean, Lynchian doesn't describe it. It's like, Twin Peaks, Mulholland Drive cosplay, which I like because I like that stuff. So if people like that kind of stuff, if you like, the occult and reincarnation and tarot cards and the Red Scare podcast and all the other stuff, this movie may just be for you.
Yeah, it was for me. I liked it. I don't think I liked it as much as Adam, but I was impressed by its boldness, and I found it very funny. I could really feel him kind of like nudging us in the stomach a little bit, like the casting of someone like Dasha from Red Scare, the presentation of Los Angeles, even the like that weird combination of pure horror, ominous energy mixed with the most vapid people in the universe kind of colliding is I thought that part of it, especially that sequence that you're talking about, is just delicious. It's so fun.
Well, and if people are interested in the horror part, I mean, Bonello's not a genre filmmaker, but he's made a series now of 3 or 4 straight horror-inflected movies, all of which I think are worth a potential, a listener's potential time, like Nocturama, which is a kind of terrorist thriller that has a lot of Dawn of the Dead and The Shining in it, set in a shopping mall. Zombie Child, which is a sort of... Jacques Tourneur-ish, not possession, but a kind of a very politicized, racialized zombie story. And then a movie that I love, and I forget if either of you have seen it. Sean, I don't even know if you've seen it, and you see everything. So did you see Coma?
I haven't, because it was a weird thing where like it was only properly released this year, but made a few years ago, right?
Well, that's just it. It's technically a film from this year, so maybe The Beast and the Coma are like a joint entry. Not a film from this year, but it came out this year. But it's like a screen life horror, kind of like Unfriended, but French, and featuring the best doll scenes since Team America, where there's like Barbie dolls that just quote Donald Trump tweets about Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart from like 12 years ago. There's the thing about Bonello. He's a really elegant filmmaker, but he's also a maximalist, and like he tries stuff.
Yeah.
I'm all for trying.
I think Nocturama and Zombie Child are on the Criterion Channel right now, along with the third. With what is the third film?
They might be showing House of Tolerance, which is actually a great, a great movie too. And I mean, maybe I don't mean predictably anything to do with me, but like for a critical favorite like Bonello, I mean, he is not an unpretentious filmmaker.
Yeah.
But I think the way that artiness bounces in this movie off of some really interesting pop and pop culture stuff, maybe the best like green screen gag I've ever seen, the opening sequence. Like, what a way to get across the idea that we're all kind of terrified of something and nothing at the same time, than having Aleya Seydoux acting against a green screen trying to be terrified.
Yeah.
I would say that if anyone even likes Mulholland Drive, this will be at least like a 6 out of 10 for you.
So it's a great recommendation. I'm glad you talked about it. I wanted to ask you about one other movie and maybe see if you could sell Amanda on it, because I would be very interested to know what she thinks about it, assuming you haven't seen it.
I don't want to try and force Amanda to like anything.
Well, you don't have to force Amanda to like it, but you can present in your typically erudite way.
Yeah, I respect your opinions more than Sean's. So
that's definitely true.
Oh,
but you wrote
in his own house.
Well, that's
in
a
his common
occurrence.
Own back. Okay, well, what's the movie?
You wrote a great piece about Last Summer for the New Republic that I just read.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
I haven't seen it, but it's been on my list. But please, I've only heard critics talk about it.
Technically a first half of the year film release. I don't know where it sits for you on your list this year, but I just saw it.
It'll be on that list. It's great. It's about awful people.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it's about French people.
Sure.
It's about, some awful French people. And you know what I liked about it and what I wrote in the piece is that if you like squint at it, it's almost indistinguishable from one of those really nice French movies that always opens. Like even the title is very nice.
Yes.
It's like, oh, Last Summer. That sounds nice. What happened last summer?
So many people are going to go see this movie thinking it's one thing and gets their guts ripped out.
It's prosperous, well-to-do couple, an older man who's like really well off. His very professionalized, only slightly younger, kind of like early middle-aged wife who, he has a son who is really troubled, and the son comes to live with them. And it's really hard to say whose fault it is, but, the teenage boy and his early 40s stepmom in a Catherine Breillat movie, they're very drawn to each other. These are bad impulses, and it's a power imbalance. And it's hard to tell if he has the upper hand because he's so young and attractive and represents something that she just can't get back. Or if she, who literally works as like a sexual assault counselor and lawyer, should probably know better than to do this. But what I said in the piece is that, Breillat's a humanist and that in all of her movies, everyone's capable of anything. Like, just because she's not nice doesn't mean she's not humane. I believe the people in this movie way more than I believe the people in, like, I'm trying to think of a movie to make fun of. I can't think of one. But, she's great. And if you want to see a movie that will make you feel bad about yourself or at least your sympathies in watching a movie, this is one, because it's very hard to root for anybody or feel justified in taking sides in what happens.
Yeah, when I finished it, my first reaction was, Jesus Christ. Which I think is what she's going for.
Right.
Yeah, and Breillat, we should say, is not only like one of the, I said if she didn't exist, French cinema would have to invent her. Yeah. Like, she wrote a novel when she was 17 that she wasn't old enough to buy.
Right.
Like, she wrote a novel that was banned for people over 18 when she was 17. And she's just been such a stringent, unapologetic, confrontational kind of filmmaker, not woke. I hate that word, but she hates it more than that. She talks about being politically incorrect. And I think that a movie like Last Summer, it's not a conservative film, but it certainly doesn't fit into this trend we have now while people are like, well, if I don't like the characters in a movie or if they're doing bad things, I can't take it.
Right.
This is not that kind of movie. And it just used to be most movies were like for adults were like that. Now it's a sort of endangered species, and this is a good thing.
I would like to hear your thoughts about it.
It's definitely on my list. I don't know. This is airing on a holiday weekend here in the U.S., so I don't really know if I'm gonna like queue it up after
July
the barbecue.
4th. Why not?
Here we go.
Don't you guys have your tickets for Horizon? I do.
Oh no, we've already seen it.
We've already seen it.
It didn't make the cut on this episode, unfortunately.
Oh, I'm going to go watch Horizon alone on Monday night after driving home from the cottage. I'm leaving my 2 daughters and wife at the cottage so I can go see Horizon.
It is the full 3 hours. I'll tell you that.
I can't wait. Yep. There's not enough moseying in American movies anymore. People don't mosey.
The one thing I would love to speak to you about that movie once you've seen it too, but it's definitely weirder than you're expecting. This is something Chris pointed out when we were discussing.
I'm expecting very weird. I want it to be batshit, man. Like Costner's crazy.
That's sort of the problem is that like it's weirder, but also sort of conventional.
Yeah.
So it's not. But maybe you'll find it batshit. I mean, that it exists might be batshit.
Are you guys going to let me mention my NFT before I go see if my kids are alive? They'll do this in less than a minute. This is the 45-minute short by, I think, the greatest practicing horror director, Kiyoshi Kurosawa from Japan. When I say it's an NFT, I just have heard that because I just saw it the way everyone did by pirating on the internet, and it played at the Berlin Film Festival. It is a movie in which contemporary Tokyo is beset by a plague where people hear a weird sound that no one else can hear. In fact, the viewer cannot hear it. Unbelievably terrible things ensue. He's the greatest. This is the guy who made Cure and Pulse and Charisma. I bow to no one in my appreciation of him. And this 45-minute horror short, which is terrifying and inexplicable and absolutely, haunted me for weeks. I mean, that's the actual best thing I've seen this year. It's just not quite a feature and it doesn't have a conventional release. But if people like Cure, which you can watch on Criterion Channel or any of his other movies associated with J-horror, he's a much more diverse filmmaker than that, but this is his sweet spot. It's so good.
So I've seen this. I highly recommend it as well. And I had a thought. I didn't ultimately do this for my movie of the year, but 3 of like the 5 best things I've seen this year have all been short films. I'm obviously not a big fan historically of short films, but the Kurosawa film, and then Don Hertzfeld's Me, which is his new animated short, which is astonishing, but you can really only see right now while he's touring with it, screening around cities in America. And then the third one is Rap World, which is the new Connor O'Malley movie, which is actually playing at the Los Feliz 3 here in Los Angeles. I think I'm moderating one of the screenings actually next week.
Yeah, you should find out.
I got to figure out what date that's going to happen. But, Connor O'Malley, I don't know if I've talked about him too much on the show. Absolute genius force of YouTube and, appeared in, I saw the TV Glow and an actor, and has been increasingly making more and more short films. He made one last year called The Mask, which was also hilarious and devastating. That actually has a lot in common with The Beast. They would be an interesting double feature, Adam. But
yeah, I'm gonna have to try and check it out. And I didn't see the Hertzfeld thing yet either.
I think you'll like both. But Rap World, just very quickly, is like basically a found footage movie about 3 white guys who are in a rap group together, set in the 1990s. And it's,
are they the Beastie Boys?
They are significantly lesser. And
lesser, okay. Well, everybody is significantly lesser.
But it's played for laughs, and it's a singular and unique experience to watch Connor O'Malley become what he is becoming, which is like a linchpin of my comedy diet, I would say.
Wow.
In 2024.
Okay.
He's a very special individual, as are the people that work with him. But those are great recommendations, Adam. Thank you so much. And
it's my pleasure. I'll see you guys on the other side of July. We also have a Canada Day. Did you know that?
Is that true?
It's like your July 4th, but much less important.
Okay.
What day does that occur on?
July 1st.
Oh, okay. Well, enjoy.
I'm celebrating it by seeing Horizon alone.
Do the Canadian provinces play any part in the story of Horizon?
No, I don't think so. I think they're a little bit in the Viggo Mortensen Western.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, that's actually a Canada adjacent.
Exactly.
Film.
Absolutely.
I whispered to Sean during that movie, is this Canada? So there you go. Representation exists for you, Adam.
Thank you, Adam.
I have to say, I'm still waiting for you guys to invite me on a Bluey pod. That's what I want.
Amanda does not show her son the television series Bluey. So until that happens, that episode can't happen.
If and when that levee breaks,
we'll let you know.
I'm there.
Okay. So it's just the 3 of us now. We have to make our choices. We've heard from some of the greats in the Ringer universe, not the Ringer-verse. They're fine. But the Ringer universe, which is exceptional.
Pretty much everyone but Chris is in the Ringer-verse, right? And Adam Nayman.
Rob Mahoney is not in the Ringer-verse.
Okay, you're right. All right.
We have a wide group here. I waited to make my pick. Bobby waited to make his pick. You didn't wait to make your pick. We'll reveal your pick momentarily. I think you may have already given it away through the course of this episode.
Yeah, no, I'm guessing that I made my pick to make sure that Rob Mahoney didn't get it.
Okay.
I've learned my lessons from the drafts. And Bobby, who is in charge of wrangling everyone, told me that was the correct thing to do because Rob did in fact try to steal mine. But yeah, you guys go first.
Okay, Bob, what's your favorite movie of the year so far?
I'm gonna go with I Saw the TV Glow. Jane Schoenbrenn's. How would you even describe this movie? Sort of like fever dream-esque recounting of their life and experience and relationship to a television, but also just coming of age.
Yeah, definitely a coming of age drama.
This movie was probably the most unlike anything else I saw this year, and so specific, so sui generis, so clearly from a person's specific experience and mind. In many ways, obviously, the the queer elements of this film were different than a lot of movies that you see come up in the mainstream conversation that we talk about on the show. But for me, like the specificity of the suburbs, of place, of growing up, of the feeling of being in your friend's basement, of the feeling of being allowed to do something that you're not allowed to do at your own house was so, it's like the relatability in this specific for me just really triggered something in my mind that I was just fascinated and kept finding myself coming back to and thinking about in the week or so after I saw it. And it wasn't really until like a couple weeks later when I went home to visit my parents in the suburbs that I was like, oh, this movie really understood something. It really solidified a vision in my mind about how the suburbs are kind of like sinister and evil in a way. And honestly, just a really incredible visual style to this movie. The fact that it's so dark and I can still see that purple and pink energy to it, but also kind of like the magical realism that I maybe is not totally my flavor of movie, but I still really bought into in this movie. I just really thought it was, you know, if not a masterpiece, a borderline masterpiece. I loved it.
Yeah, one thing I like about it that Jane mentioned when they were on the show was remembering that time in our lives when you had to be home when the TV show was airing. And that you could not just find, we were just having this conversation about The Bear.
It's true.
And where it airs.
And whether it airs on linear TV. Well, Bob, I was going to ask you, were you old enough for Snick, which was Saturday Night Nick?
I was not, no.
Yeah, because this movie does recreations of, and I don't think it says Snick specifically,
Snick,
but
it's so like, close.
If you were there, like you were there, and I thought that the imagined versions of Snick in I Saw the TV Glow, to your point about just like the really memorable and imaginative filmmaking, like jumped off the screen for me.
That was my favorite part of it.
Yeah.
And I remember reading a lot of the pre-release or Sundance hype around it was this talking about Buffy as this kind of critical, this linchpin of inspiration. But when I watched it, I had that. I was like, this is Snick.
Totally.
This show that Justice Smith's character is obsessed with is a Nick show at 9:30 p.m.
Yeah.
Like to a T, like eerily so. And then they make a choice like later on the film to show that things that you like when you're younger are not quite as you remember them when you get older, which I thought was a really powerful.
I love that. I love that part about this because it's like, it just takes like both like the fear and the emotional attachment that you had to the show out of it, but it still doesn't undermine the fact that that was still an important part of the Justice Smith character meeting the person who basically is the most important person that he ever met in his life. Based on the trajectory that the movie goes to. And then at the end, I mean, I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't had the chance to see it or maybe waiting for a chance for it to come out on stream. I guess it's out on VOD now.
It's out on VOD,
so I won't spoil the ending for it, but just like a deeply upsetting and visceral moment and a bold and powerful statement at the end of a movie that really encapsulated, I thought, what the energy and tone of the rest of the film was.
I don't have a strong point of view about this, but there's been a lot of really good writing about whether or not the ending should be perceived as hopeful or not, whether you're trans or thinking of coming out or just going through a difficult time in your life. There's one way to see it, that it is this like moment of sheer panic and it has this kind of horrifying quality, or you could say that there's a kind of realization that you can go forward from. I don't know. I don't have a strong feeling one way or another, but I would encourage people to go check out some interpretive writing about it because
there's been a lot of great
some good writing.
And even like a lot of the Letterboxd reviews
really good.
are fascinating and kind of show that the broad response to this movie beyond all of us sitting here with microphones being like, wow, what interesting filmmaking. And
it's not just, it has gone beyond like just a critic's movie or whatever. It has something deeper than that going on. Very good pick. I like it a lot. The movie that I'm picking is a movie that you saw in Venice.
Sure did.
That I had been dying to see after you saw it, which is Reisuke Hamaguchi's follow-up to Drive My Car, which is called Evil Does Not Exist, which is just an absolutely beguiling movie that I'm still trying to wrap my head around. In some ways similar to I Saw the TV Glow in that it has a kind of what just happened ending, and it has a kind of like immersive, eerie quality that is transfixing, somewhat confusing. It has like some strong points of view. It's a movie about a widower and his young daughter who live in a small village outside of Tokyo. And a corporation comes to this small village to set up a series of glamping sites, like glamorous camping sites. And they have a town hall meeting and they talk to all the residents of the community and explain their plans for this glamping site. Do you remember all of this? It's been like a year since you've seen the movie.
I do actually. And the community board meetings or, whatever the version is of like the approval for the glamping and the presentation that the glamping company gives to this small town is like up there in corporate deck Hall of Fame
it's
portrayal.
So good,
it's, because you just feel the deadness and the dread and everything that a PowerPoint presentation means to me.
And this corporation comes to this town, I think, assuming that the town is gonna be super on board with this idea. And in fact, the residents of the town have lots and lots and lots of questions for this company and are very concerned about this. And it starts off as a movie that seems like very clearly like an ecologically minded drama about a lonely guy and what he represents to the land and what it represents to him and what happens when corporate power comes to take things away from a community or from a single person. And it is that. And then it's also something else. Like the movie takes this discursive turn to focusing on the two people who work for the glamping company and them having kind of a crisis of confidence or conscience. And then it becomes a sort of more ethereal, like mythological story towards the end, which leads up to this ending. Fascinating movie. I don't pretend to know exactly what Hamaguchi is trying to say, especially in the last 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But it's beautifully shot.
One of the great scores
and
in
an
recent
incredible score. It's Aiko Ishibashi, the same composer from Drive My Car. It's a very different movie from Drive My Car. It's a much shorter movie. It's not this sort of like lyrical melancholy romance that movie was. This is something like much more like kind of dreading inducing, like in a quiet way. But one of the better movie going experiences I had this year. I really like this movie. It's not actually my favorite movie of the year. You actually got my favorite movie of the year?
Did?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. As previously mentioned, as I'm sure almost everyone can guess, my favorite movie of the year so far is Challengers. I don't have the score queued up, speaking of scores, but I did think about doing like a YouTube only segment for this podcast, which is just me just like dancing to the match point from the Challenger score. This movie was obviously like a sensation in at least the movie and pop cultural worlds.
Our beautiful vacuum.
Yeah, our beautiful vacuum, but like a slightly broader vacuum, like I have friends who don't always see all the films that we discuss, who are really aware of Challengers and excited about it. And obviously because of the involvement of Jonathan Anderson and Loewe, it's been like in the fashion world. Zendaya opens things up a bit. Josh O'Connor and Mike Feist are stars now, sort of, or, kind of. Ish. They had their moment.
Yeah.
They had their moment on
we're rooting for them.
They were very sweet together at the Met Gala, walking together, just being like, where are we? Big fans of both of them. So, that was fun in terms of just if not a monocultural moment, at least all of us together moment. And then it helps that this movie just absolutely rocks. Yeah. And in addition to rocking, like it's like rocks Amanda style, it is all of
what does that mean? It sounds like something you read on a cocktail menu.
It just is like all of the things I like. I love the films of Luca Guadagnino that are like the right combination of stylish and sensual and like a little bit over the top and ridiculous, and he's having fun. And that meme of him watching the Challengers scene and then laughing, but he's having fun too, and he wants to see it as much as we do.
Yeah. It's literally him watching the two male characters kiss, and he's gazing upon them
and
so
then
lovingly.
Just like chuckles to himself, It's great.
So good.
But like 3 killer performances, a great script that we're still all trying to figure out who inspired it. There's a great hook. It looks amazing. It got a new generation involved in how you set up trick shots, on the internet, which I thought people were kind of snide about.
Oh, why?
Well, I don't know. Everyone was like, yeah, of course they filmed it through glass from underneath. And it's like, well, let people learn. Let's all learn about the art of cinema.
I agree.
Together.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Incredible score. It's a real hit with toddlers. Have you tried that, actually?
I think it might be a little chaotic. We're really in the Frozen 2 zone right now, so I'm not sure the Trent Reznor beat drop is really...
Good luck to you.
Yeah. Frozen 2 zone would not recommend that zone, Bobby Wagner.
Yeah.
That's a not a zone of interest in my home.
I have thankfully avoided Frozen 2 for my whole life, but Frozen 1, I was a camp counselor when that was peaking. So I think I've seen that film about 181 times.
You did, but we covered Frozen 2 on this show, so you didn't have to see it?
Many films that we cover on this show, I do not have to see. Like how I have not seen a live action Marvel movie since Avengers
every day
Endgame.
Grateful for that.
Yeah, your privilege.
Yeah, congratulations. Anyway, Challengers, just an absolute delight and like really good and also really fun and provocative.
Yeah,
and
it's what we want from the movies.
Like a moment. Yeah.
I agree. It's my favorite. I like a lot of the movies that were picked on this episode. I should probably give a couple more shout outs. I really liked The First Omen. I interviewed Arkasha Stevenson on the show. Chris and I talked about it a little bit. It's on Hulu now. If people didn't get a chance to see it, it didn't do very well at the box office. But I would encourage people to check that out. I don't think anybody's taken Love Lies Bleeding, which
movie.
I think is on HBO right now.
Okay.
Max, the Max app. Do you have the Max app?
I do. It's our most used app.
Your most used app?
Yeah. Singing in the Rain, Sesame Street, Sex and the City reruns for yours truly. What else?
I don't know. That's great.
I guess now that Mary Poppins is in the rotation, Disney Plus is climbing, but because it has Sound of Music and Mary Poppins. But
just you wait.
I don't know what we would do. We should almost set a bet for like how long
before the dam bursts.
Yeah, how long can we go?
School starts in the fall.
I know, but no characters allowed.
That's true. That is true.
There you go.
But we should, and I don't want to make too much content out of that, but we should talk about what impact that will have on my daughter's life, which could be very interesting. There are lots of other good movies. Bob, you considered taking La Chimera, right? That was on your short list.
I did. Yeah, the other Josh O'Connor vehicle, kind of maybe even more in my kind of movie zone, where there's just a sort of bumbling, weirdly handsome guy who's kind of dirty, just screwing stuff up and maybe ruining his life.
Hanging out in Italy. Treasure hunting.
Really slowly. Yeah, just walking with real purpose.
I thought that movie looked amazing. It had just like such a specific visual style, and everybody looked like a little bit just dirty enough to be real, but also very well dressed at the same time. And I have such a nice image of him holding the bust in his hand, throwing it over the edge of the boat. Like that's excellent stuff right there.
I was going to take Bike Riders if I couldn't, if all my other movies got taken.
You loved it.
I really liked Bike Riders.
I did too.
Everyone else sometimes you just need to chill out and go to the movies and again, a love triangle, somewhat unspoken, but pulsating all the same.
A movie that's ultimately about two guys who really should fuck.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, they have a lot in common.
Instead, they have bicycles or motorcycles.
Sean,
yeah.
Where's your love for The Beekeeper, bro? You're not beekeeping here on the pod?
I'm looking at my best of 2024 list right now, and The Beekeeper's not on it.
Wow.
But maybe I should add it.
Bad beat. He's going to come for you next.
Oh, I had a very aggressive series of text exchanges with Tim Simons about The Beekeeper and how he was not pleased with the film and he couldn't have any fun with it. And I said, if you can't have any fun with a movie about how Hillary Trump's son
I love Tim so much.
Scams.
I don't know if he's listened to this far. Like, Tim, I love you. But come on, the first 10 minutes just,
riveting.
Catfishing or whatever, robbing Felicia Rashad.
Yeah.
That is terrifying stuff.
It's great movie making. David Ayer, you're a madman. I was confounded because I know Tim is down with a dumb as hell movie. So a very weird take. But Beekeeper, Bob, that was a great experience. We saw that film together.
It was like maybe the loudest movie I've ever seen, and there was like two other men in the theater with us, and that was it.
It was very, very loud, but fun. Any other honorable mentions you want to mention?
Well, Imaginary gave me a lot of material, so I'm grateful for that. You got to go where the content takes you. Let's see. I just Googled 2024 movies, and this is sort of a.
Did you watch Janet Planet?
I did.
What'd you think of that?
I felt about it the way that I felt about After Sun, but for
you did?
women. Yeah, which was like I think it was like hyped up too much and I was prepared to be completely shattered. And instead I really like admired the filmmaking and the performances. And, once again, there's sort of like a generational pacing thing that I'm discovering where people at 10 years younger just...
They wanted to go a little slower.
I guess they're on
because they were raised with their phones. You know? So they're like, what could happen if we slowed down?
Yeah.
If we didn't have to swipe right all the time.
But that's a me problem.
Sorry, Jack.
Julianne Nicholson, an all-timer.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll talk more about it in the future. Very interesting movie. Very hard movie to watch if you have a wife and a daughter and you watch how your wife and your daughter experience life together.
Yeah.
I, of course, have never been a daughter, nor will I ever be one.
Or a wife, or a mother.
Well, maybe one day I'll be a wife. Okay. Some days I feel like the wife of this show, if I'm being honest with you. Well, what a great episode. Thanks to everybody who's been listening along with us through the first 6 months of 2024. I assure you there will be another 6 months.
There will. What happens on them is really anyone's guess.
Yeah.
Beetlejuice.
It's gonna get spicy.
It's coming.
Q4.
What's coming?
Beetlejuice, bro.
Oh, yeah.
You're goddamn right. Hello, Q4. Hello, Beetlejuice. He hath returned. That'll be fun. Any other thoughts before we wrap this up?
No, movies.
Yeah. Have an amazing July 4th weekend. Thanks to all the listeners of the show. Thanks to Aleya Zenieris. Thanks to Jack Sanders. Thanks to our producer, Bobby Wagner, for his work on this episode. We will be back next Monday with an episode about Maxine. Amanda's been doing her Ty West research.
Yeah.
Ty will be on the show. We'll talk about the third film in the Pearl trilogy. We'll see you then.